How do we share wisdom rather than information? Hello, everybody. This is the third part in my deep dive of the recent release, The Crisis of Narration by contemporary philosopher Byung-Chul Han. In this new thesis, he explores some important developments in a world in need of new narrative forms that should concern therapists that are interested in how folks narrate themselves. In this second chapter, titled The Poverty of Experience, Han begins to articulate his view that in our contemporary culture, nothing is narrated, nothing is passed down, and that experience passed on by word of mouth is becoming increasingly rare. Here he makes an argument for a narrative therapy, or at least that's my interpretation, when he writes that one seeking counsel and the counselor belong to a narrative community, and that such counseling does not simply provide problem solving, but rather suggests how a story is to be continued. I love that, how a story is to be continued. He argues that wisdom is embedded in narrative, and when life can no longer be narrated, wisdom disappears and problem-solving techniques take its place. Here he laments the dying of wisdom and its replacement by the quick fix, non-narrated problem-solving that one can find in abundance online and unfortunately in many therapy offices. He writes that someone who merely solves problems does not have a future. He concludes this chapter by arguing for narrative courage and world-changing narratives and critiques what he calls late modernity and how it lacks a sense of beginning or grand narratives of a society to come. He argues that the tsunami of information reduces time to what is momentarily relevant, a stream of constant updates on what is currently relevant. He writes that in this condition, our narratives lack temporal extension or an extension of time. We lose the capacity to construct narratives of the future, and our lives move from one problem to the next, one crisis to the next. Our lives slow to mere survival. So what can we do as narrative therapists? Well, one practice we are engaging with to keep narrative community alive at California Family Institute is the practice of consulting your consultants. This is a practice with a long history in narrative therapy and used in several different contexts. One way this is done is by inviting appropriate people into the work to share their personal experiences and insights in navigating problems, challenges, or relationships. In this work, we support them in narrating their experience with the understanding that wisdom can be found in the narration. We have found this to be a very helpful practice for several reasons. If you would like to learn more about the various ways you can access experience and wisdom through the practice of consulting your consultants, check out this article, Lessons Hard Won, an Introduction to the Theory and Applications of Consulting Your Consultants by my friend and colleague, Lindsay Hampson. There's a link in the YouTube. Find it on the YouTube channel. Another practice we are experimenting with at CFI is scenario mapping, which provides a temporal extension to the narrative work we do and counters the narrowing down of futures by the immediacy, acceleration, and information deluge of contemporary culture, and supports the capacity to construct narratives of the future. Scenarios are intriguing to us for several reasons. They provide a methodology or a map for a collective adventure. They are a mode of storytelling to help us deal with uncertainty. They are ripe for collaboration as they are an actor's craft rather than a director's craft. You can fail. The narrative is created rather than prescribed. And finally, it provides a space to work out possible predictions of experiences one might have as they move into liminal space. Look for some more writing and training in the future on this sort of work. One critique I have of this chapter is that, and it's where the tension lies for me in this book in general, and that's the modernist and humanist leaning Han has when he speaks of grand narratives of a society to come. He writes of narratives of the future being animated by a belief in progress and a beginning anew in a spirit of revolution. Ideas, that I can get behind. And he quotes Bertolt Brecht, referencing modernity as having a profound sense of beginning and playing on the great tabula rasa, or the future is a blank slate. Yes, I believe in a need to break from what has come before, narratives of possibility, but I'm no utopian. And I stand with Tony Fry, who introduced the concept of defuturing. Fry believes that the future is not an empty space to be filled, but rather a territory already colonized by what the past and present have sent to it. Without this knowledge of what constraints are already in place or what influences are at hand, when discussing possible futures, these sorts of conversations tend to go nowhere. So, important stuff. Anyway, tension is always good. More to come. Next time I will discuss his chapter on the narrated life. I hope you will continue to follow along. Please like or subscribe to my YouTube channel to be notified when any new videos are released. And peace.